This is Why Small Business Matters from Northumbria University, supporting small businesses with the Help to Grow management programme.
Hello and welcome to Why Small Business Matters. I'm Sarah Stephenson, part of the Help to Grow management team at Northumbria University. Today we're talking all things leadership and management skills for small and medium-sized businesses. We often hear that we try to help leaders and owners work on, not in their business for a few hours a week. And so I'm delighted today to be talking to one of our previous participants on the programme, Jenny Cairns, who runs and owns the Doggy Daycare Centre in Northumberland, and Simon Reed, a mentor and coach who's worked previously in large blue chip organisations, but since 2018 has started a coaching business working with small business owners to really see the personal impact that change can help with their business. Welcome, Jenny and Simon, today.
Hi.
Hi, good morning.
So, Jenny, tell us a little bit about you and your business up in Northumberland. What is it that you do exactly?
I get asked this question so much. So I think, first of all, we started in 2018. And dog daycare wasn't a very big industry at the time. It was a passion of myself and my husband's that we really wanted to get to work with dogs. We absolutely love dogs. So first of all, it was a lifestyle change. We wanted to work on something that we absolutely loved. So I outgrew the idea of starting up a daycare and just, getting into that industry. It was difficult to start because the industry, we didn't have much to follow or to go off. So we had to do a lot of research with American companies, to see what they were offering and what we could, copy as essentially, or ideas that we could take from them to set up by ourselves. But the dream at the beginning was small, we envisaged if we got 20 dogs a day, that was going to be amazing. Myself and my husband working together with the dogs, that was what we wanted. So, but the best way to describe what we do, it is like nursery, very much like nursery, for a place for children, and it's for dogs. And
it's not a boarding kennels, is it? I suppose it's we want to make that distinction.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very different. Exactly as if you could imagine nursery. You are dropping your dog off rather than your child, and they spend the day doing lots of fun activities with staff, a lot of staff interaction. If I named every activity we did, we would be here all day, but it ranges from birthday parties, pool parties. They have lunchtime, they have nap time, they have lots of social interaction with each other, and we make the environment positive for all dogs. And we want to see dogs thrive and have fun in our care. And that's the most important thing to us. So we fill their days full of fun.
I'm just going to throw in a couple of stats here. So this is from the Pet Business Insurance website. I've taken this. As of 2023, there are estimated to be 12 million dogs in the UK, up from 7.6 million in 2011. So I imagine a lot of that was during COVID, people buying pets and so on. And expenditure on pets and pet-related products has accounted for more than 9 billion in 2022. So I can see that there is definitely a market there for the pet daycare industry. So if I have a pet and I'm out to work all day, what do I need to spend to send my dog along to stay with you?
So we do two packages. We do a full and a half day package. It's £26 a day for a full day and £19 for a half day. A half day is 4.5 hours. A full day is anything up to 10 hours. So we open 7:30 in the morning and close at 5:45 in the evening. And everything is included within that package. So, all the activities, all the fun that they have, that is all, included within that.
Fantastic. And way cheaper than sending a child to nursery.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We do offer a pick up and drop off service as well. So that's really handy for people who don't have the time to drop off or pick up. We have keys and we're fully insured. Our staff have like a little van and it's all kitted out and they go around and pick up all the dogs in the morning and take them home on an evening. So that's another part of the business that's a really busy part.
So before we bring Simon in, let's just talk about how you started your business and grew your business. So you talked about there wasn't really much for you to look at within the UK market, but you looked at the American market for doggy daycare. How did that work out? What were you looking at?
Yeah. So again, it was led by passion. Once the idea, started, actually initially it was like, should we do this from our back garden? And then it was like, I'm not sure that's going to work. Like, what can we look at? And the idea just grew. We found a suitable unit, which had outside area that was attached. So we knew we could securely exercise these animals while we had them as well, the dogs, and do lots of fun things with them securely, rather than being out like a dog walker would be. In the public and in public areas, that could be quite difficult. So, we thought a unit was going to be perfect. We just needed to find the right unit in the right location, which we did quite quickly. And, it was difficult not having anything to go off, essentially, apart from the American market. There really wasn't much at the time. So yeah, we knew we were marketing. We were more or less the market ourselves, in the sense that we owned 3 dogs. We both worked full time. Children, busy lives, and a dog walker wasn't quite, suitable for what we needed for our dogs. So that's where the idea started, really.
And what legally, what did you need to put in place? So were there any licenses you needed to apply for?
So we did a lot of research online previously. We were very experienced with dogs, both of us, previous to opening the business. But license and requirements, believe it or not, in 2018, when we opened, there wasn't one. The industry actually wasn't regulated because it was such a new industry. We were really fortunate, actually, because we contacted our local council and said, look, this industry is not regulated, but we would like some help and some guidance into how to make this the best we possibly can. And they informed us that they were actually in talks with, DEFRA were in talks with the local councils to enforce licensing. And they'd said, you can optionally license if you'd like to. So we jumped at the chance straight away. We thought, absolutely, we've got some guidelines and some, things to work towards. So we snapped the hand off and said, yeah, we'll take the optional license. And that was a huge step for us, because we were the only daycare at the time who was doing it the way we were within a premises rather than at home, who optionally took this license. And what that meant for us was, when the licensing came into force and it became, you had to have that license to be able to operate, we were a step ahead. So we already had ticked all of those boxes, and it actually made us the only and the first 5-star rated daycare in the Northeast, because everybody else who got licensed, who had to get licensed after us, were assessed as to being at risk, so they could only get a lower star rating. So that put us in really good form.
That sounds amazing. But I'd like to bring Simon in at this point, because I think, Simon, I know you've worked for large organisations previously, and you set up your own coaching business in 2018. Jenny's recounting there of the story of setting up her business. It sounds to me as though she worked very closely right from the start with her local council to set things up. And I just wondered, from your perspective, when you meet business leaders who are looking to grow their business, what do they come to you with, and how do you assess their current position and how you can help them move forward?
I think the businesses are similar, quite honestly, to where Jenny's was. That Jenny's running a really, really good business, and yet she wanted to improve. She knew that it wasn't at full potential. Either the business wasn't, or indeed she didn't feel that she was at her true potential, but had done a lot of things really, really well. And that's what I find all the time, is that you get people who are great at, 70% of the business, but it's the other 30% that kind of holds them back. And that 30% could be in a variety of different areas. They're not all in the same area. There are some common themes, and those themes are around actually sometimes valuing what they have and what they've created, around pricing and communicating value and confidence in terms of making those kind of changes, because after 5 or 6 years, they tend to get into a little bit more of a rut, and it's kind of, how do I get out of this? what can I charge more? Can I do more? Can I do less? And that's a very difficult place to get out of on your own. And, for me, the reason I left corporate was because I was doing something for someone else. It didn't really matter. They gave me money, but money's not as good as, the thank yous or the rewards that you get from a personal point of view. So, and that's why I kind of started the coaching, because I could take all the training that I've got. I actually started working in smaller companies first of all before I went into corporate, and then apply that and help small business owners, because it's not difficult. You just need to know what you need to know. And the challenge is, I know, it's the Help to Grow process is brilliant because it starts to get people understand. So what do I need to know? They're not going to learn all of it on Help to Grow. They're not going to be a marketing specialist in 1 week. They're going to sit home and go and cry that they've got an awful lot to learn. But in reality, what they learn then is, what do I need to look for? Is it worthwhile having a marketing specialist? What's this thing about value? What's this thing about, looking at the marketplace and competition and SWOTs and, some simple things like that. And that's what I love it so much, because the process isn't difficult, but actually some of the journeys that my clients go over or go through is actually more difficult than learning. It's actually how they change, how they think about their business, how they look at what it is that they want from their business, and how they see and perceive themselves within the role of a business owner as an entrepreneur.
So, Jenny, let's just take you back. You'd started the first site for your business, and then you decided that you would open another one. So how were things going before you decided that you needed to take part in a leadership course like Help to Grow Management? How were things going? Was it organic? How were things growing?
We were very lucky in the fact that it was organic, a lot of organic growth. So we opened our first site, we got full. We had to open a second site, we got full. We opened a third site, so on and so forth. So we probably expanded about every 18 months on average before we would be full and have to open again. We had no marketing strategies when we first started. I wouldn't have even known what a marketing strategy was. We were very new to business and we just wanted to follow our passion and do what we were doing at the absolute best of our ability. But what fast became our marketing strategy was the dogs that were in our care. We thought, let's demonstrate to the owners what these dogs are doing. And what better way to do that is, use Instagram and Facebook pictures and videos of these dogs having the best time, tag their owners. This fast became our marketing strategy without us even knowing. People were liking, sharing, commenting. And I think this was the main cause of our growth. I think people were seeing us, people were sharing and liking. And a lot of people like to watch dogs just having fun. And the social interaction with the staff and, really happy dogs. So that became our marketing strategy. And although we didn't know it at the time, I really think that was a big part of our growth.
And so at what point did you decide that really doing something like Help to Grow Management, which is a 12-week leadership and management course that really helps you focus on the skills of leadership, but also covers all things from digital adoption to financial management and so on. At what point did you think, I think I really need to be doing something like this?
So it was early last year. We'd opened our fourth site. So at this point, we were looking after around 250 dogs a day, with about 25 members of staff. And I started to feel like, I think there's things I could be doing here, but I'm not entirely sure what that is. And I can't really describe that feeling. It just felt like, I think I've done all I can, but I felt like that wasn't right. But I wasn't sure what was going to help me be able to strip back and look at things that I could be doing. And I had a conversation with a business owner and entrepreneur, and he'd said, I think this course is going to be perfect for you. And he sent me the link. We had a little chat, sent the link. And I thought, why not? Like, what have I got to lose? Let's do the course. I've never been to university before. So I thought, I'm just going to grow and learn from this. So let's do it. And to be honest, it's been the best decision, going forward. I wished I'd done it earlier, but it has been great for me.
Making that decision and launching yourself into starting Help to Grow last year, as part of the process, you are matched with a mentor. And how did you find that broker matching process? Did you do it yourself, or was Simon matched with you separately?
Yes, me and Simon were matched. So somebody else, matched us together.
And I suppose part of that process is you really identifying areas that you need help with. And what's that relationship been like? What did you start off talking about?
It was very relaxed, and I just felt at ease straight away. There was, we got on, and it just felt easy to talk to Simon. I felt like he challenged my thinking, but in a really positive way. Challenging my thinking, and I think that's something that you don't get quite a lot as a business owner. A lot of people don't challenge your thoughts or your procedures or, what you are doing with your business, because ultimately you are the decision maker and it lies with you. So having Simon's been invaluable for me to be able to ask questions, ask advice for. And like I say, that challenging the thinking has been a great part of my personal growth.
So in a way, it's more like having somebody to challenge you on your thinking rather than the actual business itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Because ultimately, all these business decisions do lie with yourself, and that can become quite daunting. I've always been quite gut-led, especially prior to the Help to Grow. I would just use my gut and think, yeah, that feels right. Whereas now I understand the importance of being able to review figures and analyse the business in much more depth to be able to make much more informed decisions. So I feel like my decisions now aren't as gut-led, which is, at this stage is a good point to be at. So he's really helped me do that.
And Simon, why did you decide that you were going to take part in the Help to Grow mentoring scheme? Because it's pro bono, isn't it? You'd not paid for this.
Yes. I think for me, I kind of liked it because it was in a non-commercial environment. So you don't have to worry about money or keeping clients or anything else. It's a very straightforward process to help business owners generally. I know they have different managers and things people on the course, but I generally work with the business owners, and it's just a kind of, it's my give back, I suppose, and payback to, things that I've had in the past and the value that I've got from good mentors and I haven't come across very many in business, I must admit, but those I have come across have been really influential on me. So I kind of for me, that's a very motivational factor. So money stopped being a driver, not because I'm rich, but because it became less important. And, actually getting something which is rewarding for me and I feel good at the end of the day is far more important nowadays. And that's why.
Going back to the business itself, I'm really interested in how you now focus, having done the course and have the experience of working alongside Simon. How do you focus now on the strategy to grow your business, Jenny? Have these things changed?
Yeah, absolutely. So the course has helped me and Simon really strip back the business, and all the modules helped me identify areas where I thought we could work on that, or we could take this on board and do something with it. So I do have a list. We have already started. I started quite impulsive. So even while I was doing the course, I was like, ooh, let's get stuck into this. I would like to start, doing this. So we've already implemented quite a lot of change. But I find myself now working, and my mindset's completely different. I work on the business. I don't feel like I work in the business as much anymore, which is great because all these changes are positive. That everything I've learned so far has really helped me to grow areas of the business that previous to the course I wouldn't have even identified. So
do you mind sharing some of those changes with us?
Yeah, no problem. So we've assessed different packages of daycare, which has been, we've already implemented that change. So we have an enrolment period now, which we didn't have before. So that's helped, identify an area within the daycare that we could change and do a little bit differently. So we've implemented that. That's gone really, really well. And it's, it's positive for the dog, it's positive for the owners, and it's been positive for us. So that's been great. The digitalization, we've, started to digitalize some of our systems, and we will carry on investigating other systems that are going to help us in that way, because that area, I would say, isn't my strongest point. So the course has definitely helped me identify that that's something, that needed work and I needed help with. And Simon's helped me a lot with that. So we're working on them areas as well at the minute. So we have got a list and we are going through it, but it's fun. It's, these things don't need to be done straight away. Simon's definitely helped me plan better. Planning, it can be difficult as a business owner. I think you get dragged into everything each day, and before you know it, sometimes your day can be lost and you haven't worked on your business. Whereas Simon's really helped me identify that we need to be making time to look at these areas to be able to plan things going forward, and that's really helped.
And the changes you're wanting to make, how are you funding that? Is that through growth of the business or?
Yeah, exactly that. So ultimately, we haven't ever, borrowed money for the business, which is amazing. We've constantly reinvested in the business. So every time, we look at a point where we think, yeah, we're doing great, we're doing really good business, everybody's happy, let's do it again. So we've constantly reinvested in the business. And we will continue to do so.
And Simon, I'd really like to know, from your perspective, coaching and mentoring participants on Help to Grow, what's your technique? What do you lay out when you first meet the business that you're going to be mentoring?
One of the conversations I have very early on in any relationship with an entrepreneur is what I find in small businesses is that the business owners tend to see themselves as the business, and therefore they make decisions for themselves. They don't make decisions for the business. So one of the first things I do is separate the individual to the entity, because, Jenny's running a good sized business there, and it has its own needs and requirements. So getting the directors of a business to understand that actually fundamentally they are employees, and even though they are the directors of the business, the fact that they then have to think about the needs of the business separately to their own business needs is a good starting point. I'm not sure, Jenny, how that made you feel during the process. That was
one of a huge turning point for me, because I'd never thought of the business in that way. So it was almost like the penny dropped when Simon, questions my thinking, which I really like, because like I say, the penny dropped and I was like, I understand this a lot better now. And I felt differently instantly about the business. And everything you look at and every decision you make after that penny drops becomes very different. Yeah, I think you look at what is it the business needs, and then what do I need? And when we're looking at planning, it's kind of, so who's the priority here? The priority is actually the business, and the individual will benefit afterwards. But actually, what does the business need? And then you kind of look at tasks and activities that you wouldn't normally do because it's not your chosen area. But now you have to challenge yourself because the business is saying, excuse me, I need this, or you need to do that because I'm hurting at the moment, or I'm not at my full potential. And it does change that mindset completely. So that's generally where I start. I haven't come across anybody who's thinking that way over the last 6 years at the beginning. They are thinking it at the end.
And I suppose a passion business like this, it must be quite hard initially to do that, because your focus has always been the care of the dogs and making sure that the owners are happy. But actually now you've grown so much and you have so many people to look after within your business. That must be quite hard to take yourself away from that.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. And I think, the Help to Grow is really, and Simon helped me focus a lot on my staff. I think it's something we've always done. So the team has always been really, really important to us, because without them, we are not us, So the Help to Grow has helped that, investing in our team and making sure we have we want to create, and we have created, a really happy workplace for people. And that is so important to us as well. So to work on the Help to Grow made me identify areas as well that we could do more with the team and help people grow with us, which we've been very lucky with, to be honest. We've had staff from day one, from the day we've opened, are still with us now. And lots of people have been on this journey with us. We would not be here now if it wasn't for our team. But I do think that's because our core values have not changed, and we've carried on investing into that team. It's just been such an important area for us.
You're listening to Why Small Business Matters. Find out how Northumbria University can help your business thrive through the Help to Grow management programme. Delivered by leading small business and enterprise experts from Northumbria University, with the support of leading figures from industry and experienced entrepreneurs. The programme supports senior managers of small and medium-sized businesses to boost their business's performance, resilience and long-term growth. The 12-week programme is 90% funded by the government, and the fee payable by participants is £750 and has been designed to allow participants to complete it alongside full-time work. The in-depth, high-quality curriculum supports you to build your capabilities in leadership, innovation, digital adoption, employee engagement, marketing, responsible business and financial management. By the end of the program, you'll develop a business growth plan to help you lead your business to realize its potential. To find out more about the program, the modules, eligibility and fees and delivery dates, go to northumbria.ac.uk/help-to-grow.
Listening to Why Small Business Matters. I'm Sarah Stephenson, and today we're joined by Jenny Cairns from the Doggy Daycare Centre and Simon Reed, also known as the Business Skipper, a mentor on Help to Grow management. Lots of businesses are going through problems at the moment with national insurance increase and cost of living and other changes to costs within the business. I just wondered what ongoing expenses now you're perhaps having to focus on as a slightly larger business that perhaps weren't quite as important at the very beginning.
Yeah, I think, again, having Simon's been really helpful because he's helped me learn how to forecast, something I wouldn't have previously done. And again, the Help to Grow with the finance module really helped me understand that a little bit more. So it makes us be able to review the changes and what impact they are going to have on the business and what we can do to help that. I mean, it's something that unfortunately we can't help. We're not going to be able to get around. And also, as a business owner, I want my staff to do well. I want to invest into my staff, so it's a really important area for us. And like I say, having the ability now to be able to look at finances a different way it's going to help with these changes that they're going to come along. We've got no power against them, but at least now I feel like I've got the tools and the help that I wouldn't have had prior to the course.
Not necessarily Jenny, but other clients that I have, there's this whole mystique about finance, and because it is mysterious, and it's also generally when you look at money, you generally 99% of the time you're going to come out with a figure that's actually different and negative to where you thought you were going to be. So the natural approach is we don't look, and you rely on your annual accounts, and you don't look on things on a monthly basis. And in reality, the business kind of runs itself from a financial point of view. And I think that's one of the key things you asked earlier about. One of the key changes people need to make or start to make is that they really need to understand not to make them accountants, but they really need to understand how their business works from a financial point of view. Okay, what's happening on a weekly basis or a monthly basis? Where are you? What's changing? What's the impact? So you talked about the impact of national insurance. There will be some people listening to this podcast who actually haven't calculated it. And that's what I find. It's kind of, I know it's going to impact me. I know it's going to be quite a lot of money, but I'm not going to work it out. And I just have to make do and sort things out. And at the end of the year, they go, oh, where's my profit gone? But that's 18 months after they had that change. So I think that ability, and that's what I like about the course and the Help to Grow scheme, is that it starts to open people's eyes to how important money is. Mindset, money, those are the two key things, I think, that I think Help to Grow brings, and people need to understand right at the beginning.
And I think what you've just described there is a lot of business owners who are a bit like ostriches. It's head in the sand because that's the one thing they don't want to be frightened about. But I suppose if you are able to forecast and you've got those figures at your fingertips, it just makes life a lot simpler, doesn't it, going forward?
Yeah, and people generally are using systems that have those reports on them, but they don't go into those systems. And that's a common theme throughout the businesses that I coach. And that's why I tend to coach organizations with probably less than 50 employees, because they're the ones who kind of, they get to 20 employees or 25 employees and then nothing else happens. It kind of carries on. In fact, it's dying slowly. It's helping them get past that, to that next stage. And they're also very vulnerable at that point as well.
Let's go back to the business itself. So going forward, your strategy for expanding the business, Jenny, do you have any plans to move into other areas other than the pet daycare market?
Not currently. I think I'm still very passionate about what I do, and I know we have more growth within the business. I know it's there, especially after doing the course. It's identified that really. We are expanding into our 5th location in May, so that's very exciting. So there's a lot of time and preparation going into that at the minute. But currently, I don't have any plans to do anything else. I absolutely love what I do, and I do think we can still. We've got a lot of areas that we can grow into and expand on. So I'm just looking forward to that at the moment.
And that's the great thing about being able to identify where within the business you've still got areas for growth, rather than trying to go too fast or too wide, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have any tips or advice for our listeners who may well be thinking about setting up a pet-related business in the future?
I would say if you are passionate, I think that is the key. I think if you love something and you really care about the thing that you want to do, I think that is the underlying, passion spreads. If you can demonstrate to people that you're passionate about something, it automatically catches people's attention. So I'd say do something you love, really put your all into it. And I would also try and sustain your lane. I think it's a very appropriate way of saying it. We wanted to do daycare because we knew we could look after dogs very well. And that was what we put our all into. We didn't diversify. We didn't, start to be dog trainers and start to do things overnight. And we stayed in our lane and we focused on doing what we did to the absolute best of our ability. So I think really focus on one thing that, you're good at and you're passionate about, and go for it. And, I never thought in a million years that we would be where we are now. I never thought I'd have 25 members of staff. Never thought we'd be over 5 locations, but I've loved the journey and I'm still loving the journey. It's not like work. It's, yes, I look at the business very differently now, especially after the course and having Simon, but I'm still very passionate about it and I love what I do. So I think I would absolutely go for it.
And Simon, I think from what Jenny's saying, it's very much about focus and passion for those businesses who are looking to establish a new business.
Yes, it is. And however, I think there's also some other elements. And so Jenny won't beat her drum about this, but the processes that Jenny has put into place are really, really good. So whether it's people processes, whether it's processes around looking after the animals, whether it's the onboarding process, whether it's all the legal requirements, all of that, that's something I think you did quite early on and then have just kind of repurposed that in each of the different locations. It's not, when you just talk about doggy daycare, it's not just here's a dog, put it in a site for a day and then say goodbye to it. There's so much more to it, and there's so much legal requirement, and there's also, if you're going to do it really well, there are some other things you need to do as well. But all of that is documented. So I think, yes, the passion, I think that's great, but don't forget, you also have to put those processes into place as well, because then you'll ensure that you're not going to hit a brick wall at some point during the first year.
And you mentioned the use of Instagram and Facebook to share really the experience of the dog during the day, and that has fed into your marketing strategy. Do you, in addition to that, do you focus on online marketing, or is this still an organic situation where you're not actively seeking new customers?
It's still very organic at the moment. I think going forward, when we expand, we will look into marketing strategies a lot deeper, because I do think we could change the way we do things. But sometimes I also do think if it's not broken, don't fix it. And the way we are at the minute is working. Although it was never designed to bring new business, it was literally designed, let's just make the customers be able to see these dogs having the best fun. Like I say, we soon identified that it became a massive part of our business, and people loved it. They absolutely loved it. And I think, like I say, if it's not broken, don't fix it. We will continue to video ourselves having fun with the dogs, parties and pool parties and having fun, agility, scent work. We do everything with these dogs, and people love to watch it. And I think if we carry on doing that's something we're going to focus on as well.
And Jenny, I hear that you've nominated Simon for the Help to Grow Management Mentoring Awards, the Personal Impact category. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I unexpectedly just received an email and it said, nominate your mentor. And I was like, absolutely, I have so many great things to say about Simon. And I was like, yes, let's do it. And it was really simple, yes, you had to put, personal information in and how Simon had helped me personally. So yeah, I put the nomination forward. I don't think I told you, Simon. Did I tell you that I can't remember if I told Simon or not.
You didn't. No, you didn't. So I only found out when I had received an email from the Help to Grow team. Yeah. Yeah.
So I really just, it took me half an hour maximum, filled in, generally how I felt about the whole experience and how Simon had impacted me personally. Sent it off and didn't think much more, and then received an email to say, your mentor has been selected to be a finalist. Would you like to come down to London to take part in the awards? Yeah. So I got straight on a message to Simon to say, have you received the news yet? So I'm not sure how you felt about that, Simon. I'm sorry if I threw you under the bus.
Hey, come on. The one thing I do this job for is kind of good feedback. So very happy to receive that. Thank you.
Oh, good.
So Simon, I just wondered if you could just share with us a couple of things that you perhaps think business owners overlook.
So one of the things I find common, again, is that the business owners, because they feel that they started the business and it's theirs, that they have to be the people who are responsible for making all the decisions, and that they need to make those decisions because no one else can actually knows the business as well as they do. The reality is that when you've got two people in a business, then the other person knows quite a lot because they are objective to looking objectively at the situation because they're not the business owner. And when you've got 5 or 10 or 15 or 20, asking the right people for ideas and thoughts of how to improve is a really good way of, first of all, engaging them in the business in which they're working so they feel better. But also, it always surprises them what they get back from that process. So that's number one, engage with the team and get some feedback. I think the other one is, once you've identified things to do, is to plan. And I did a LinkedIn post this morning with someone looking at an empty diary and having a headache. And that's what tends to happen because a lot of business owners have all these ideas in their head and they run their business in their head, but actually not as much as written down in terms of, not processes and things, but those are in place, but more about, all the things that they can improve, all the projects and ideas that they have. Because generally people like Jenny, they get to where they get to because they've got some great ideas. And Jenny says, okay, we kind of grew. But no, there were lots of decisions made along the way to actually get to where you are today. And that's a really important part. And how people plan is a key to that process. Because if you can't plan, if it's not on paper, it doesn't exist. There are no timelines. And in reality, in a year's time, your top 3 ideas are still your top 3 ideas. They don't actually get implemented. So understanding how to plan, okay, is really, really key. And that can be a block for some people. And the last one I'd say is that, especially, we talked about increased costs and expenses because of national insurance and things like that. And that's always going to be the situation. And part of it's mindset in terms of, okay, these things are happening. You have 2 choices. You can either just kind of go, oh, I'm not happy. It's outside of my control. I can't do anything about it. Or you focus internally and go, there must be hundreds of things I can do to improve it within my business. And that's really, when I talk about business potential, it's the mindset that looks at their own business and said, okay, so what can we achieve? It's kind of the Kaizen approach to running a business. And again, that's not just the business owner. That's also the team within the business as well, because they want it to succeed. They want the company to get more profits, because then there's a chance they may get more. All right. So they're engaged and they're keen. So all of those kind of things together and looking at, what are your real costs? I talked about finance already, and knowing that, and then understanding, well, actually, what's the real value of what I do and provide to my end clients, and either sell that value better so that you can increase your prices, okay, or communicate it better. So those are kind of my key thoughts, the kind of things that I get involved with on a regular basis.
And Simon, if our listeners would like to get in touch with you, do you have an email address or a website?
Yes. So my company is called The Business Skipper. And the reason being is that I use sailing as some analogies sometimes, because I'm also a professional skipper. And so I'm very lucky at my later ages in life that I've left corporate land and I can do the things that I really enjoy. One of those is helping people in business, and the other one is sailing. So, and sometimes I have the fun of actually joining those together. So my business is called The Business Skipper Limited. And the web address is very straightforward. It's just www.thebusinessskipper.co.uk.
And Jenny, if any of our listeners out there are looking for doggy daycare, how do they get in touch with you?
Very much the same. So our website is our name, so the doggydaycarecentre.com, and you will find all the information you need on there. We've got Instagram as well, and Facebook and TikTok. So if you want to see any fun TikToks, we're on there as well. Some quite fun videos on there.
Thank you very much. You've been listening to Why Small Business Matters. If you've enjoyed today's episode, why not go back and look at what we've done in the past, from intellectual property through to embracing tech and a non-tech business, and learning about the world of culture and tourism with Lee Venus at the Kielder Observatory. Thanks again for listening.